Welcome to the Lift Your Story podcast with guest Bas Lebesque.
Hi, everyone. I am Lorianne. I am that gal from Milton, Ontario, Canada, and I'm with.
I am that guy. I am Roy Miller from Dallas, Texas, and we'd like to welcome you to our Lift Your Story podcast.
In this episode, we're pleased to have Bas Lebesque, and he is an executive mindset coach. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much, Lorianne and Roy.
Yeah, glad
It's a
to have
pleasure.
you. So, tell me about your transition from being in the hospitality industry to becoming a trader.
Oh, I studied hotel management, and my first job when I graduated, I wanted to do something that no one else, well, not no one else, but not a lot of people were doing. Most of the people were staying behind in the Netherlands. Maybe they would move to London or Paris, but I was like, no, I need to go somewhere where no one else is going. So an opportunity for Shanghai came around, and I was like, okay, I go to China, I go to Shanghai. And I hadn't really done any research or read any books about China or what life in Shanghai would be like. I was like, let's go. And so I went, and so I came to Shanghai in 1996, which is a very, very, very different world than Shanghai is right now. It's I'm a guy of regular height, but back then I could not buy any clothes there. It was like there was just nothing. There was no well, how do you call it, entertainment like we know it in the Western world, in the sense of bars, sports, all that kind of stuff. But then I arrived, and I started working the next day, and I got my schedule, and I looked at my schedule, and I started counting the hours I had to work, and I came to about 100 hours a week. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? And it's funny. I had that belief back then, when you sign a contract, you fill the contract. So the contract was for a year, and it never really occurred to me that I could have said, I'm not doing this. I'm back on the flight going back home. So I did do my 100 hours a week for a year. And then I was like, I'm done. I'm going to go back home. I don't want to do this for another year or however long. And the people that I was working with, they were all working 100 hours a week, not the expats then. And so I came back to a hotel in Amsterdam, and I started working as a night manager. So then I'd been working in a hotel for 2 years, and I'd never seen any daylight. And I was like, this just needs to stop. I've tried to go for this hotel management career, and maybe I took off at a wrong start, and that's totally fine. But I was like, I'm done. So I started looking for other opportunities. I moved into banking came about. I started in the back office, and I didn't like that as well. I was like, okay, but I do like working for the bank, but then I want to be there where the action is. So I very quickly moved into the dealing room, and I became a trader, and I became quite successful. I became quite successful trader, and that was fun. So does that answer your question, Roy?
Yeah, but then you walked away
from banking again. Yes. Yes, I did. After 10 years trading, I came to a point where I was about 35, and this goes back way earlier to my life. When I was 12 years old, my mother passed away of cancer, and that I started questioning back then. It's like, what's life about, and what does it mean to live a fulfilled life, and how am I going to get the most out of it? And I was chasing this career and money and external validation. And so my mother passed away when she was 38, and I was coming up 35, and that age was coming like very close to me. And I was also like, okay, so what, you know, what if I only have 3 years left, or and what is a fulfilled life? Is like trading for another 30 years and getting more money and playing with other people's money and pension funds money and trying to increase it and sending money all over the world and back. And I was like, no, this is not what is going to make me happy. I need to start to connect with my purpose and with a vision I have and what I truly desire. And that honestly took me another 10 years, but I'm there now.
Fantastic. I love the idea of what you were saying about getting rid of your stuff. I went through it. Me, it was sort of forced.
Mm-hmm.
I lost everything, and I went from 2,400 square feet with a basement and a big garage down to 900 square feet, then down to 400 square feet.
Okay.
But in a funny way, it was very freeing.
Uh-huh.
As hard as that is. So you were saying 75% of your stuff you got rid of.
Yes. And I did that in a week. And it was, so after my trading career, I went into a consultancy job, and I've been working in Brussels and Luxembourg and Paris for long periods of time, the year plus. So I was basically living out of 2 suitcases, and I had an apartment in Amsterdam, and I came back to that apartment, and I was going to rent it out, and I had to take, well, I was going to rent that furniture, but I don't really have that much furniture. I have a table and a sofa, and maybe a side table and a little kind of closet. And that's about it, and a bed, of course. But there was so much stuff in my apartment, and I was like, what am I going to do with all this stuff? And I was really considering like renting a Shurgard or a storage room, and I was like, I'm going to spend €100 a month for 2 years, so let's say €2,500 to store all this garbage. It wasn't really garbage, but things that I hadn't touched for 4 years. And I was like, I don't know, I don't even know what I have. And it's like, I don't want to spend, the value of what I'm going to store is probably less than what I'm going to spend on the storage. And I just said, you need to let go of a lot of stuff. And that's what I did. I went through my house, and like very quickly, it's like go, and some things went to charity, some things went to the garbage bin, and there was only a very few items that I sold, but I was so I had when I moved into the apartment that was 20 years before, I took an old refrigerator and I put it in my basement, and I never used it. Every time I walked into the basement, I was like, I want to get rid of that thing. I want to get rid of that thing. I want to get rid of that thing. And I was so happy when I finally carried that thing out of my basement. I was like, oh, finally, that's gone. But the real lesson in it for me is that I do not regret a single item that I got rid of. And like even 2 weeks later, I couldn't, if I would really have to sit down to make a list of 10 items that I threw out, or that I gave away. And it's these things. It's like this refrigerator, that's been there for like 20 years, and like another item that would like a ladder that was in my basement, which I only used once, and I bought it. I used it once, and then I sold it. But it's like these things. I had a tuxedo. I remember, and when I transferred it to my new place, and then I looked at it, and I saw um, there was a receipt which was still in guilders. We moved into euros, from guilders to euros in 2002. So this is like, really, do you need this? No, I don't. So yeah, it's
Do you find that do you find that there's a correlation though? Because I mean, it's been talked about quite a bit recently about
yes.
having sort of like too much stuff or clutter, and when you release it, there's almost a release of in the mindset as well. There's a it calms it, knowing that something that's been sort of nagging somewhere in your subconscious or your conscious when you see it
Uh-huh.
is now done and removed and a bit freeing, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying, and I feel totally liberated by not having to, deal with all that stuff anymore. And it is, I mean, the things you possess start to possess you. Uh, and when you take the example of, like, you know, renting storage space, that would mean I would need to have to work to get an income to pay for that space for things that have no value. So what am I I'm not creating anything. I'm just wasting. Where now I have the choice whether I want to put the hours in, and I'll let's say I'll get to 2,400 euros, and I can do whatever I want with it, preferably not buy new stuff, but create experiences, or uh, do a down payment on my mortgage. I mean, that makes a lot more sense than trying to hold on to this stuff, which is uh, yeah,
I
which is
think
a
it's
problem.
I think it's interesting because I even look and I know that there's boxes I have, like plastic tote boxes,
Mhm.
that I haven't opened up in a couple of years. The problem is when I'm clearing things out, I open them up and I go, oh, look, I don't want to get rid of it. That's why I kept this.
Uh-huh.
Like, that's about getting rid of things. If you haven't opened that box, don't. And if you haven't
Yes.
thought about what don't open it because it brings back
Uh,
all those, rushes.
I mean, another thing is just basically get rid of the actual box and leave all that. I'll leave the stuff on your dinner table. You will get rid of it. If there's no more box to put it in, you will get rid of it somehow. Um,
It's a good
yeah.
point.
So, I mean, what I do with my clients as well is always like some form of decluttering as well. And this can be really physical. I've worked with clients that, they started cleaning their garage, and their life started to shift. But it's not always like the decluttering of like physical stuff, but it can also be the mental stuff. A conversation you've been avoiding for the last, I don't know, 5-10 years. Have that conversation. Get your peace of mind, and do it in a way where all parties are respected, of course. And if you can do that, then um, yeah. For example, I did that with my father, and uh, it was very hard work for me, but I'm so happy I did that, because I've created this complete discrepancy between who my father actually was and who I'd liked him to be, uh, and that was not fair to him. It wasn't fair to me. But I was always, every time I was confronted with my father, I was seeing this like, oh, he's not like the way he's supposed to be. He needs to be this. He needs to be that. He needs to be perfect. He doesn't love me. He's not proud of me. He doesn't accept me, which was, I came to realize that that was basically, me looking in the mirror. I wasn't loving myself. I wasn't accepting myself. I wasn't proud of myself. And I all projected that on him because that was so much easier. So, when I decluttered that relationship, I got my father back, and we've been better ever since. And that's amazing. And I was at the point where I wanted to break with him. I'm like, I want you out of my life. I can't deal with this anymore. And that's so empowering.
I think it's fair for him as well. I think, that alienation always makes that other person wonder why. It's not often you see why. So a child alienates you, unless it's understood specifics, and you can say, okay, yes, I understand why you want to stay away from me. That's fine. I accept it, but at least there's a knowledge thereof. But just to alienate a parent or a parent alienate their child without some sort of conversation like this will always leave that one person thinking why. And at least when you do speak it out, it is like you said, it's decluttering, it's getting something out there and clearing the air. I think the whys need to be answered regardless of whether it's hurtful or not. It needs to be said, and like you said, with respectfully, but
yes,
one side might be hurt, but at least it's out there. Yeah. So I commend you on that. That's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. Very happy about it. Because it's been, since my mother died, and the dynamics in my family, me, my sister, and my dad, it changed, and that didn't make it easier as well. But I kept it going on for way too long. But that's decluttered, like my physical stuff. So, but I mean, I kind of want to take it to the next level and see if I can let go of more stuff. But I come to a point where I'll be like, now I'll be getting rid of stuff that I'm actually using, and that's still like pretty good. I was reading. I'm reading a book about it, and the guy got rid of his TV, and I was like, I'm not sure if I'm ready to let go of my TV.
It's interesting you're talking about, getting rid of things and all, and the mindset and all. Like Lorianne and I, our age, I'm to the point now where, I want to get rid of stuff. I've got too much stuff. Been here for years. I'm thinking, why do we have this? So we're working into that now, is trying to get rid of stuff. And why do we have this? Why do we even have it in the first place? We've been married 50 years. I mean, but I do, and some of it's kind of hard to do because you have all that emotional attachment to it. But then once you do, it's like, man, I'm glad we did that.
But I mean, like as simple as a scissor. I mean, I don't know. Do you know how many scissors you have in the house, Roy?
Probably about 5 or 6 pairs.
Yes. And how many do you need?
Well, the only reason we have so many is we never can find them, so we got them all.
Exactly. If you only have, but the thing is, the moment you have one, it will be in a set place, and you will never doubt where is it. And so when I started thinking about how many things I have in duplicates or in multiple quantities, or like 3 or 4, it's like, okay, I need to, some things need to go.
I'm like that too. I had my daughter come and live with me for a little while. And so what I did, I bought an extra desk for her, and I bought some extra stuff that I had the room for. And now I'm looking at them going, I don't need that stuff anymore. It's just taking up space. But I'm not thinking, oh gosh, then I got to drag it up, and I got to take it out, and I got to put it out on the curb or whatever. But that, like, I was so happy when I had downsized and so much stuff was gone. But even with that, you'd be surprised what you can squish in a 400 square foot apartment.
Oh yeah. I totally Yeah.
when it came out, my landlady said, "Oh my goodness, where did you put all that?" I'm going, "I know, right? I'm really good at zipping things." Zip files.
Yeah.
So one thing, sorry,
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say one thing I did find the most difficult to do, and there are not times where I sit there and go, darn, my books, because I had like, I don't know, I had 5 big bookcase shelves of books when I was downsizing. I had to get rid of them, and I kept only a few, and definitely the signed copies of whatever I had. But there's a few of them like philosophy books and art history books that I gave away that sometimes I go, gosh, I wish I had those just to go back over, because those are things that you can read.
Yeah.
So that was my hardest thing of all. The clothes weren't a problem, and it was funny going to the Salvation Army once, and there was some of my gowns and dresses, and I'm going, oh, you're thinking of buying it back, and you go, what are you thinking? I know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, for books for me was very easy. I hardly ever read a book more than once, and also, I think books need to be read. I would what I would what I would like is basically that my book will go to a person, he reads it, and then it goes on and on and on and on, and because that's, if you think about if you the value of your bookshelves, with all the books, which are just basically standing in your let's say your living room, it's in a waste. In a way it's like really, really expensive wallpaper. You're not. I mean, unless you're really gonna read them again, then I say, of course, keep them. But that's not what most people do.
That's what, yeah. I was gonna say that's why the only two that were really bothersome were my philosophy books that I did go back over, and you go research, or the art history books you go back over. The ones that I didn't read, those I don't even think about, or the ones that I read already. The one-offs.
So tell us a little about your coaching business.
Yeah, so that's when I came to my purpose. When I resigned from trading, I really started to do my inner work and connecting with my purpose. And I had various teachers that taught me along the way, and I went to the School of the Work of Byron Katie, and afterwards I think I did 300 hours of free coaching with fellow students, and that's I started doing that kind of as a volunteer, and I loved it, and just like hearing people's stories and see how I could help them, and they helped me as well. And I've been also on a health journey. I've always been quite active in sports, but I took it up a notch, and people started telling me, you should do something with nutrition, or with like a personal trainer. But that was never really, that didn't really do the click for me. So at a certain point, I came in touch with the coaching education, and I was like, this is just what I'm going to do, and I'm going to, either I like it or I don't. And if I don't like it, then I have had a great education that I can use for myself. But the moment I started, I was like, I want to have my first client. I want to be able to participate in that transformation. So that's how the ball started rolling. And I initially started with lifestyle coaching, but I very quickly realized that it's never really about the lifestyle. There's always something underneath. When you're able to find that problem, the lifestyle is not is solved by itself. And that's that's how I started working, and how I got great success, and how I moved into basically into executive mindset coaching. And yeah, it's an honor to get the confidence and the trust from my clients, and to share their vulnerability and their openness, and to have an amazing transformation.
When you were doing your free coaching,
Hmm.
did you learn more than you taught?
Oh yes, I mean, one of the uh, one of the yeah, the most important things I learned in that free coaching was to listen, to keep your mouth shut. That's like, is it, and don't come with advice, or I think you should do this, or you should do that. That's also what I always say to my clients when we start, because I do CrossFit, and I sit in ice baths 3 times a week, and people think like, oh my God, if I'm going to work with him, I need to do that too. And it's no, no, no. It's like, you, um, we're going to find what works for you, not what works for me, or what works for my neighbor, or for all my other clients. That will never work. We're going to find what works for you. And for some, it's I do really believe in the foundation of sleep, energy, mental, physical fitness, and nutrition. So that needs to have a certain level, and that doesn't usually need drastic changes. I don't work with diets. I don't believe in diets, but I've worked with people that lost 30 kilos, but and not being on a diet, not being not exercising more than they did before, but by just creating balance in their lives. Balance started to appear in their body, and the weight would just fall off.
Love that. I was just going to say, though, if you would have me going into ice packs, you would have to pay me instead of me you.
Yeah. So no, there's no, I mean, there's no need, and it's really, I've with all my clients, I've been able to find that sweet spot that made that triggered the change. And yeah,
I
that's
absolutely love that. I love what you're saying about, you don't have to change so much. And definitely the no diet. I am all for that. I mean,
mhm.
from my background being a bulimia recovery coach, I had bulimia. That was all started by that whole thing about the diets and so on and so forth. And I understand diets can mean what you eat, but they're
Mhm.
talking most of the time it means, you know, restricting.
Yes,
And I love that
exactly.
you said, and it's true, if you get the right balance of sleep, a lot of times like sleep is part of that. And people don't understand that. They think that if they work out more, if they eat less, it's going to make it all happen. What you're doing is exactly what I love, is that you're focusing what really matters to make that happen.
I
And
mean,
so
I've worked with a hoarder. He was really a hoarder, and he wasn't sleeping. He was sleeping 5 hours a night, and then he heard on some podcast, you need to get up at 5 in the morning to organize your life, and he was doing all these side jobs, and his main job, and his child, and his house became a mess. It's like you see on television. And I was like, first sleep, you need to sleep 7 hours a night. And he had no problem sleeping, but he was just depriving himself because he thought it was working for him, but it wasn't. So the moment he started to sleep, he started to see how messy his house was, and what he needed to change. And he cleaned up his house up very, very quickly. Uh, when I started working with him, and then he showed me, like, it was all online. He showed me pictures, and he took me like uh, on Skype through his house, and I was really like, no, 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 this is over my head. This is work for a professional, but it's well, I am a professional, but more directed, like, maybe to psychologist or a psychiatrist or more that kind of professional. But once we started working on sleep, it started changing. And I've worked with this executive woman. She was also sleeping 5 hours a night, working 70 hours a week, 5 children at home. And I'm like, when she started telling me her story, I was like, I can't even believe that you're still standing. How do you manage this life? But the good thing is, the moment she started sleeping, a couple of weeks, months later, she came to me and she's like, yeah, I think it's a coincidence, but my children slept through the night 3 nights in a row. And I was like, I don't think that's a coincidence. And she's like, what do you mean? It's like, they mirror what you do. You come into your family in such a different energy. It's not, you don't need to rush the meal through, the book reading through, the washing, and get them into bed and go back to work. It's quiet, and they feel that energy, and they copy that energy, and of course they start to sleep better. I mean, it will not always be that they'll mirror it in sleeping, but they might play, they might be more playful, they might not be so anxious, or they might eat better. They'll copy your energy, and that's amazing. And one other thing I wanted to say about the diet, when I was working with this woman, she's a diabetic, and she was eating her meals in front of the television and mindlessly, because you're watching TV and you're just stuffing it in. And I was like, would you mind going to the dining table and eat your food there with your partner? Are you and your partner open for that? And she was a bit hesitant, but she's like, okay, I'll give it a try. Now she's at the dinner table and she still has this plate with this enormous mountain of food in front of her. And she's looking at it. She's like, no, this is ridiculous. I can't eat it. It's too much. Now she's like focused, or she's like, yeah. And that just like, she basically cut her portion in half, and that kept her from having to go back on diabetic medication, which is just like, it's just a shift. There's no diet, there's no restriction, there's no punishment, there's no nothing. It's just like being aware and being mindful of what you're really eating and listening to your body and what you really need. And she's happier than ever.
Right. So how can our listeners reach out to you?
They can come to my website, which is my name, baslebesque.com. They can also reach me on LinkedIn. I'm open for a conversation. The first session is always on me, and every 3 weeks I do a free workshop, which is also announced on LinkedIn, and that's around weight loss and how to get that kind of balance into your life, that you can lose the weight and keep it off without having to do all this horrible dieting and punishing, and which is not sustainable at all.
Right.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for this. Really enjoyed the conversation. And
yes,
I did so too. Yeah. It was very fun talking to you.
Yeah, thank you for being our guest. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you, Lorianne.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Be sure to visit us at lifterstory.com.